Welcome to a mesmerizing journey into the world of fashion photography masters. These visionaries have crafted images that capture timeless beauty, leaving an indelible mark on the industry. Today, we unveil the secrets behind their iconic elegance.
I'm so excited to be here today. It's a special day that we have an amazing interview with two amazing people. We have today Lucy Lara, who has been editor-in-chief of several magazines like Harper's Bazaar, Elle Magazine, Marie Claire, and Glamour. And we have today Tim Petersen, who is one of the best photographers in the world. And we have the pleasure to be with him today to have this interview about his work, about his career. I'm excited to be part of this interview.
Ram,
Thank you very much.
For us too. Tim, I'm so happy you are joining us from New York with cold weather there, and it's so warm in here. But we are so happy to have you here. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for having me. It's an amazing opportunity. So I opened up my website, and we just decided that I would mention some stories that I did in the past and some recent stories. And if there is anything you see you want me to talk about, then I can. Otherwise, I guess I just start. This is a very recent story I did. It's actually interesting. So friends of mine, they have a company called Flotel, and they find old lighthouses all over the world, and they make little boutique hotels out of them. Really interesting. And so this was their latest find, and I had the opportunity to film in it and photograph in it. A very interesting fashion story. It's a longer story, but it's a very famous lighthouse. It's in Ischia, Italy, and the idea was kind of to make a lighthouse story with a female lighthouse keeper, which actually there was a female lighthouse keeper in that lighthouse, the only one that ever existed. But again, longer story. But I had the opportunity to actually to find it in there. This is still the way it was. It was untouched for 50 years. Like, this was the workshop of the lighthouse keeper, and so we just put the girl in the new collection, the highlights of the new collections, and photographed her that way. And so I always like stuff like that when it actually has a story behind it. And that was that. And thank you. It was Madame magazine. And thank you. Yeah, that was fun. Rames and I we talked about this story the other day. It was obviously a Man Ray inspired story, jewelry story, which Man Ray used to develop his film by himself in the 1920s. For people who do not know who that is, he's one of my big inspirations. And so he, like, way in the beginning of fashion photography, he used to shoot on 8x10-inch cameras, the big cameras with where you have a fabric over your head and see everything upside down. And when he shot on negative, which I did as well, he would develop them in a tray, and because he was kind of lazy in a way, or couldn't wait, he would turn on the red light, and that way the picture would solarize, which means the parts that are not developed yet turn into a negative. So it's called solarization, and it's like half negative, half positive. So, which is, a very complicated way of shooting it, especially nowadays, analog on 8x10-inch, but it's something I really like to do. And so this was that story. The pictures come out I find very special and very different than anything you can do today on digital. Again, I'm going to scroll further down. Tell me when you want something.
Could you tell us, Tim, about the process on the editorials? How do you normally work? Do you work with a magazine for a long time, and then once you create a creative relationship with them and you create the stories together? Or how is it? You come with the stories, you propose the magazine, or it's other way around?
It's a fabulous question. Actually, it has been changing a lot lately. It used to be that the magazine came with the idea. Like usually, Lucy, you would come up with a story or a theme for the whole magazine, as you know, and then you photographers would contribute. But most of the time, the editors already had the idea of what it is they want to do, and there was a very different structure, though, of fashion magazines having a bigger budget, having advertising clients that needed something in particular. So now that all the magazines becoming less and less about the budget and more just about showing creative content, it is, I think the photographers now more involved of coming up with their own story and proposing it to the magazine.
Do you think it's now that it has changed, or is you that you have already been able to have your own style, that people ask you to develop the concept by yourself more than they come in with the concept?
Again, I think it has changed. It has changed a lot, and you always had to create your own style anyway, even if the story is already, even if the subject of the story is already given or the idea is already there. You still shoot it in your own style, obviously, but now it's even. It used to be more that you would switch. You would be, you would shoot beauty, then the next day you shoot fashion, and then you shoot something studio, and then you're outdoors. Now there's so many photographers and so many specialized photographers that a lot of people just shoot that one style, and that's what they do, and that's what you know them for. But that has changed a lot. That used to be very different.
But you have to keep your own style. However, you have to be able to fit in that magazine with the DNA of the magazine. How do you accomplish that?
Well, usually, when the magazine already asks you, looks at your work or at your portfolio, and the magazine wants you to shoot for them, it's already clear that it fits in there. Because, like Lucy, if you would pick a photographer, you wouldn't pick somebody that doesn't fit in the magazine. And you have, when you look at somebody's work, you look at it and you're like, oh, that would really work well for this particular issue or in general, So there's not much I have to do. If once the magazine already asked me, then I pretty much do what I think is right, and what I think it's very intuitive. I just do what I think is right. Yeah.
And what happens if you don't have a good sense of communication, or you don't have a good feeling about the model? Because sometimes when you come into the magazine or you come into the story, you might be the last one to be called. Say everything has been set with a model or celebrity, and then they call you, and you might not have chemistry with this model or celebrity. How do you go about that?
But yeah, you're asking such good questions. It was very good. Luckily that happens very rarely, because most of the time you know the model, or most of the time I am involved in the choosing of the model. At least I get to see the book, but if I don't see her in person, at least I get a feeling who it is before. So especially when you go on a trip or so, then you know the model before. So most of the time, I get along with almost everybody. Most of the time there is a connection, and I think when you're excited about what you're doing, then usually it's very intoxicating. Everybody in the team usually gets the feeling. I think that's the best quote I heard about Richard Avedon. Like, anybody who worked with him, any model, any hair and makeup, they always said, like, working with him was like, you always had a feeling you're working on something special. So there's something exciting coming out of this. And when you can create that kind of energy on the set, then usually it's very hard to have a model that's not interested in a good picture or not interested in something exciting. So, especially when you work editorial, then if you work commercially, sometimes the model doesn't really want to do it or thinks she doesn't make enough money or whatever, then sometimes that can happen. But usually, it doesn't usually happen, at least not on my sets.
How do you distinguish your own style now that you were talking about Avedon's style? How would you describe your style in terms of the team work that you do when you are on set?
I think my work is very cinematic, I guess. It's always like I wanted to be part of, like it would be a still frame from a movie, I guess, a beautiful movie, hopefully. And I'd like it if there's a story behind it. So yeah, I would say very cinematic, somewhat dramatic in a fashion sense as well, and somewhat dreamy, like romantic. Yeah.
Could you go over your website to show us some images, videos?
Yeah. Okay, let's stick to the images right now. Well, basically, you asked me before which would like some of our most exciting editorials I was shooting, and I thought who I have to mention first is my good friend and amazing model Carmen de Lorifice. This one. Yeah, she's amazing. And I'm actually working on a movie about her, so I already told Rames whenever that one is out, I'll let you know, or when it's finished. But yeah, meeting her was very, very special. I mean, a lot of the stories I heard about Avedon and Penn and Horst P. Horst, and I heard it firsthand from her because she worked with everybody. So for everybody who does not know her, she is she's a model. She's the youngest model ever on the American Vogue cover, and also the oldest, which is like, how can you be both? How does that work? She's working ever since she's 14 years old, and she's now 89 years, so she's almost 90. She's going to be 90 in June, which is unbelievable, but that is the truth. So yeah, these are from several different editorials I did with her. This is American Vanity Fair, and this is London Times Style magazine, and so on. So I worked many times with her over the years, but meeting her and working with her and learning from her was one of the highlights in my career for sure. This is the story about Tamara de Lampica, who's a painter, and so she was always an inspiration in terms of makeup and style, because I always loved the 40s, anywhere from the 20s to the 40s. I always loved that, and so she was kind of inventing Art Deco style painting. That was Tamara de Lampica, and she was also a very stylish woman herself. So the idea was to do a fashion shoot with her, with the fashion in her workspace, in her studio, but also recreating with the same model, recreating the paintings. So this is what we did. It was a very, very lengthy process. It took like forever. And I have to say, I don't want to take too much credit. Obviously, what you see on the right, the painting, this is the girl, the same as on the left. And the special effects that are done all by airbrush and by the plaster head, like the hair is made out of the plaster head. I will show you in a second some behind the scene pictures. I don't want to take too much credit. This is an amazing work of Rebecca Summers. She did all the, so she's an artist and she did all the special effects, which was amazing. So there's no retouching, no nothing. This is all done. I did pull out some behind the scene pictures so you can actually see how that process worked. So the girl was actually, here she's just getting her makeup done, and in the background down there, you see actually the original painting from Tamara de Lampica. And it was funny. I mean, to me, it was when I built the set and I set the lighting, and I saw the light coming from top left, and then I looked at the painting, and sometimes the shadows come from the left, sometimes from the right, because she just painted it the way she wanted it. Tamara de Lampica did, and the original whatever looked pretty, not the way it actually would fall the light. So I'm like, I don't know how to set the light. And then Rebecca, who did the special effects, Rebecca Summers, she actually said, don't worry, I'm going to paint in the shadows. So we made a very even light, and she painted in all the shadows in order to make it exactly the same. That was just a behind the scene. Yeah.
So how long did it take to do the whole story? Like a couple of days?
No, this was longer. This was, I want to say, I mean, every picture was one day, the whole day, of course. Every painting, we did 5 of them, and then a couple of days for the fashion. But all the preparations it was, I want to say it was at least 2 weeks to do that story. So yeah. Big story, but it was worth it, and it was. I'm still happy with it. I still like showing it, and so yeah. There's a few stories that I'm sure in everybody's career that are just going to be always there, and so this was one of them. That was worth it.
I just wanted to ask you about this process, because as a photographer, sometimes it's about an amazing location, that the location itself gives us the possibility to explore and give us the inspiration or the natural lighting. Other times it's the attitude of the model that gives us the freedom to explore that. In this case, when a project that is super planned with a concept and it takes weeks to prepare, just want to know how is the process for you in different types of projects, and especially talking about this one.
I mean, and this is a good example, because obviously these images are more about Rebecca Summers' work than mine, because she did such an amazing job with the special effects. That's like, it's incredible. But I always like to work with very creative and very talented people, and the thing is, the hard part is, and you're totally right about that, is to find them and to put them together, and it is true in this case that was my concept, because I was a big Tamara de Lampica fan for a long time, but I did find her, but by introducing it to her, she actually added the idea with all, painting in all the shadows and building the set and painting the set, and so it was. It's always a collaboration, but I think as a photographer, also finding the right model, of course, and the right stylist. Nole Marin did the styling on this one, and it's always about finding the right people, putting the right group together, having the right idea. When all of that is done, there's almost impossible to mess it up. I mean, then I could have done anything on this shoot and it would have looked pretty impressive. Your biggest work is actually way before the shoot actually happens. It's to come up with a concept, to somehow be able to put everybody in front of your camera, and if all of that works out well, then you have a great result. It's really not so much about what you do that day.
Yeah, but that was my point that I was talking about, that as a photographer, sometimes it's, of course, it's always our part during the photo shoot because we are taking the pictures, but sometimes it's much more work on the production side and to make the concept. And other times it's a lot of work during the shoot when it's a very complicated lighting, when we have difficult weather and all of that. Yes, and there are different types of projects. And for me, one of the things that I like in photography, especially in fashion, of great photographers are these photographers that they create the concepts and they develop that idea in a very specific way because they already had it in their heads and they put it, they give it life on the image. And I believe that is something that we are missing more and more in the last decades, to really put all this effort to create stories that takes you weeks to create a concept to develop. And now with the globalization and all digital, we are kind of uh, photographers or artists, well, I would say photographers in fashion, they kind of don't have too much time on preparing the shoot. And that's what it makes the difference on a photographer, on your style, that takes all this time in preparation and conceptualization for an image. And that's something that puts you away of what a lot of people is doing. They could create nice pictures. And as I said, sometimes you create really nice pictures during the day because you're in an amazing landscape, you have an amazing model, amazing fashion stylist, but other times it's really about your work much time before.
Yeah, I think it has changed a lot, and we talked about this before. It has changed a lot because of the budget, and it's everything has to be like you said, Lucy. Everything has to be a lot more with less budget, less material, more ideas, hopefully. But if you look at the style that's actually in style right now, it's very minimalistic, very just girls leaning on the wall and very little storytelling. And the reason is, I don't think it's not because people are less creative, it's because there's less budget and there's less stuff to work with, and fashion is just much less, fashion photography, sorry about that, is much less important than it used to be. It used to be, the big photographers in fashion, they were superstars and they were rich and they were like, everybody knew them. Now more Instagram influencers than fashion photographers. So that has just changed a lot. So it's the motivation also for a lot of people is not necessarily to do the most creative fashion story for the most part, but it's better for them to be an influencer or to be, or in photography, actually, it's better to be in a gallery than in a magazine, because that's where you suddenly make the money. It just has changed a lot. For me, it doesn't make any difference. I still do the same as I've been doing for 30 years or longer. So, but in general, it has changed a lot. And I'm sure it will change again. But right now, this is, I think, what's in style right now is not necessarily because it is the most creative. It's because it's what's doable right now.
So you accomplished all your goals, huh?
I did. Yes.
Great. That's amazing. That's amazing.
No, I'm so I feel so blessed that I don't start out now, because now that's obviously it's different and it's not. It's shifting now anyway. I mean, we all do more moving image. I've always done film on the side as well, but now it's becoming more and more that. And I think that's something very new and very exciting again. And doing interesting fashion film is amazing. And it's a good it's a good new creative field to do something new. So that is good. And in photography, I'm also, like many other people now, doing more fine art work. So instead of being so important that a specific designer or a specific model or a specific celebrity is in the stories, you can be more free and you just do fine art work and actually try to end up in a gallery, which I do, especially this year now that I have so much time to work on stuff. I have several shows coming up this year, which is very exciting.
I guess we'll see you soon, but we're looking forward for your books to come out. I want to see that movie, definitely.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can work together.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey through the fashion photography master's world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating content.